Hello guys, welcome to the session on XAT. So XAT is going to be conducted on January 7, 2024. So I think tomorrow is the last day to apply for XAT. So if you haven't applied yet, you guys can go and apply, right? So today is the next 24 will be the last deadline for XAT, right? So xatonline.in is the link in case you guys are not able to find it. You guys can easily Google it and find it on net, right? So I have two of the people from Excel. So one is current student with Excel and second one is like ex student, I'll say, the pass out from or alum of Excel. So Prataksha is here. So she is passed out, I think, this year only. She is currently working as a management trainee in Mercedes Benz. And coming to her profile, when she had joined, she was a fresher. She was fresh out of the campus. So as I already mentioned in my reel, like some like I got 2 to 3 doubts that do Excel get admit to freshers also, right, or fresh out of the campus. So yes, Pratyaksha is one of the example for that, and currently she's doing good, really fairly well, right? So and the another one is Dipan. So Dipan is currently in Excel and he is in the BM program. So he was working prior to joining to Excel, and he is from MIT Manipal. And if you want to connect with him, so his profile is there. So Dipan Maji is very active guy, so you can ask anything about him. So I'll not take much time of these guys because these guys are the best one who can answer all your related to ZAT preparation strategy. And for the help of you guys, we will do some practice of ZAT also, but that will come at the end. So for that, you need to be very patient and attending the session till the very end. If you attend, you will get some tips from the Pan and Prataksha also, how to prepare for that, and not only that also, how to crack the interviews also. So over to the Pan and Prataksha.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Um, Taking over, the first thing is that cat is over for you guys, right? So, one thing that happens to a lot of people is they tend to lose momentum, right? So, I would like that none of you do that. That is a very, very important exam, and it can be an entry gate to a top tier B school for you guys. So, carry on with that momentum, no matter how cat went for you. I want all of you to bounce back and get ready, get all prepared up for the coming exam, right? So, coming to the first thing, that will be the exam pattern. So, I'm very sure that most of you have done your own research, but to quickly revise on how the paper goes, like the paper is divided into two parts, part A and part B. Talking about part A, it will again constitute of three sections. The first being verbal, followed by decision making, and then quantitative ability and data interpretation. DM is will be a new section for all of you. So we'll see how to tackle, how to navigate that section in particular. Again, one thing that is unique about ZAT and is not in CAT is that you get to jump between different sections, right? When I mean that, there is no time constraint to any one particular section for your paper. Talking about the part two will constitute of general knowledge and one essay that you will have to type out during the exam. One thing that I want to make a note of for you guys is that part two usually does not influence your cutoff. So that is a section that is opened during or during the time of your interviews. Pre that, post that, again, there's not much clarity on that. So again, that is a section you should not be worrying about a lot. Talking about the marking scheme goes like +1 for the right answer, minus 0.25 for incorrect. And there is one unique negative marking that ZAT introduces, which is there'll be zero point 0.1 number of zero point 0.1 marks of deduction per one question unanswered after your 8 unanswered questions. So let's say you have 10 unanswered questions in total in your paper. So barring the 8, you have two questions that will award you a penalty of zero point 0.1 marks each. So zero point 0.2 marks in negative you'll be having in total because of those unanswered questions. Right? Does that make sense to everyone? If there are any queries on this particular slide, we can stop or we can go ahead. Okay, assuming there are no doubts. Again, this is how the last year paper was formulated. So VA included 4 RCs, one poem again, which is somewhat of a unique problem set for XAT, followed by para completion, fill in the blanks, grammar, and 7 critical reasoning questions. TM had 6 sets with 3 MCQs and 2 sets with 2 MCQs. Again, DM usually is a caselet based pattern that we tend to see. And Q and DI again had 3 DI sets. Then arithmetic, numbers, algebra, geometry based questions, probability. Trigo is something again that is unique to XAT, that is not in CAT. Then 2 on investments and 2 on data sufficiency, right? Uh, moving ahead, marks wasn't percentile for that. Why I have included this slide is to highlight one key point for you guys, right? So if you see the trend from, let's say, the past 5, 6 years, except the year 2023, approximately 36 to 37 in raw score would translate to 99 percentile. But 2023 was an outlier year where you could see that 99 percentile was fetched at approximately 43 raw score. So one thing I want to highlight is do not keep a target score in your mind, right? Because again, a lot of people thought last year ki, we are getting 40, right? So 40 in general, seeing the past trends would easily fetch you a well enough percentile. But because the nature of the paper changed a bit last year, difficulty wise, so the raw score versus percentile graph got skewed a little, right? Pratiksha, if you want to take over from here, please.
Sure, sure. So generally, after the exam, what happens is there are 2 categories of students: engineers and non-engineers. And XLRI has certain different cutoffs of males and females. And as you can see, if you're an engineer and you want percentile cutoff for BM, it will be 95 for male and 92 percentile for females. And similarly for HRM, it will be 93 for males and 91 for females. For non-engineers, it will be same for BM, which is 95 and 92 combination. However, for HRM, it will be 90 and 88 percentile. And you might think that such low percentiles will not get you into XLRI, but that is not the case. Even a low percentile of 92 or 93 gets you in XLRI if you perform very well in the interview process. So it is not just your performance in the D day of the exam, but also in the interview. Let's move on to the next slide. So the overall process for selection into XLRI will be first clearing of the XAT cutoff that we just discussed. And then if you clear these cutoffs, you get a set of behavioral questions that you have to answer depending on your past experiences. Even as a fresher, what are the things that you've done? You have had experience of organizing events or some kind of social service or something exemplary that you've done in sports, in studies, anything. So all your experiences come into play here, and how do you frame those answers? That really matters, because then you'll be question basis on these answers. And then you get to schedule your interviews. And in earlier years, GD rounds used to happen, but however, in the past 2-3 years, because of COVID, online interviews have been happening and GDs have not happened. I'm really sorry if there is some background noise. Please try to avoid that as much as you can. So GD rounds might happen. It's not a surety. However, if it happens, then you will have to prepare accordingly. What happens is, for interview and GD, you have to be very much up to date with what is in the current news, what are certain numbers, like what are the stats that run around that topic, if you can remember those. So all those things, how do you address other people? How do you address the interviewers? How do you sit? How do you talk? All these things matter, and these are things for preparation in the coming days. Let's move on to the next slide. All right, yeah. So we'll be discussing few of the questions on decision making in the coming process. And Payan, if you want to take the initial questions.
Yeah, sure. Before that, is there any doubt pertaining to the process, the exam, the GDPIs, anything? They are considered, Priyanshu, but the exact again bifurcation is not out in the public.
Yeah. So it all depends on complete personality of yours. Like it's everything that you own and you can present to the interviewers and the exam. It is everything that you bring to the table. It's not a single thing.
Absolutely, a rather holistic profile of yours is considered. One thing that I want to point out in the previous slide was one thing you must have noticed is that the BM program tends to give a higher weightage to quants, whereas the HR program has a higher weightage on verbal. So that is one area that you guys should target on basis what is your preferred stream. And another thing is, even if you qualify the entire cutoff, sectional cutoffs are something you should keep in mind, because again there's no time limit per section. We tend to neglect one particular section in particular, so that should not happen, right?
Okay, and there's a question that I'm scoring around 30 in the past papers. What do I do to take it to 40? Any advice for that? Okay, Disha, there are a few things that you can do. First, analyze your paper answers. What are the questions where you are getting wrong answers? What are the areas where you need to improve? And also try to see what is the solution to those questions that you did wrong. Now, when you see the solution and now you see the way you solve those questions, you might see that there might be some kind of tricks involved in quantitative aptitude or the verbal reasoning or the decision making. There might be some different kind of logic. So try to get that logic. You will be able to perform better. And also because time is a very big constraint in these exams, try to see if you're able to solve faster in these questions. And if you're not able to, if you're giving more time in one question, do not stick to that question, move on to next question or even next section, because that gives you that flexibility. And any more questions? We'll be happy to answer.
I'll ask one question. Ideally, these guys should have asked this. So one query I get, right, sir, I'm not interested in HR. Still, shall I apply for HR, right? So these people think that people passing out from HR work as only as HR, right? So you are the best person who can answer this.
Okay. So first of all, HR is not about making rangolis. You don't get paid 30 lakhs to just make rangolis. One thing is that. And secondly, when you get into HR, you have plethora of options. Let's say you're coming from a background of computer science. So you have the options. If you have a work experience of computer science and software engineering, you have the option to become a product manager, and you can get into companies like Microsoft and such companies. So there is one that kind of option. Then there is investment banking. And also there is consulting, which are the biggest roles you want to get in after you get into a management or a B school. So there is no stopping of opportunities if you get into HR. Of course, your profile matters. What's your past experience? For example, like as a fresher, you are prone to getting roles in FMCG companies, which are like HUL, P&G. So these companies want to hire you for either marketing or HR roles. So marketing roles will be less in HR profile, very less opportunity. However, if you do live projects and show your background that yes, you are good, you may be able to get roles if the company comes on campus or off campus, you will be able to get. Or through case competitions. If you get into case competitions, then also you can get any kind of placement that you want. So yes, IB is investment banking, where last year, in my year, we were one of the investment banking companies hired from the HR program, and there were multiple shortlists from HR program. So there is no foundation that you will only be doing HR. That's not the case. You can get into product management. You can get into data analytics. Companies like American Express also hire from HR. So it's an open field. You come, you study, you explore, and you get what you really can get through your experience, the kind of skill sets you bring to the table. I hope that answers.
Nishant, taking a question regarding Excel, NCR, and Jamshedpur campus. Like, if someone has a preference for Jamshedpur campus, then what? Okay, so as I stated earlier, as we stated earlier in our previous slides, that for the BM program, that is the business management program, the entire process is common for both of the campuses. So what essentially happens is there is one list for Jamshedpur, then there is one list for Delhi. The Delhi people are essentially weighted in wait list for the Jamshedpur campus. And then there's a third list, that is the wait list in total, right? So the movement happens from Jamshedpur to Delhi campus, then the wait list. So the wait list person will get moved on to Delhi campus, and if the seats are empty, they'll be again promoted to Jamshedpur campus. That is how the process goes, Misha. I hope that clarifies the question.
Yes, adding on, if you are exceptionally well, then you get JS Jamshedpur. And if you perform slightly not lesser or a little poorly, then you will be more likely to get the Delhi NCR campus. Any more questions?
So Jay is asking that he's from, I think, advertising background. So he's asking, shall I apply for HRM or not?
You can apply from any course or any background. You should understand what HR is about and how does it relate to your life goals. What do you want to do in the future? What will help would be going through LinkedIn profiles of people who have graduated from XLRI or HR related courses, and you see what kind of roles have they taken in their lives through their LinkedIn profiles, and you get to know, okay, does this relate to the kind of work that I want to do in the future? And then you can answer it similarly in your interviews or any kind of behavioral questions, that how does HR relate to you. So you should understand what HR does, and is it good enough for you to pursue as a career ahead.
Kishore, yes, the placements are combined. There's a combined that is being formed out of Delhi BM, Jamshedpur BM, and Jamshedpur HR. Moving on to Rishabh. See, again, that is one section that you should not worry about much, but at the same time, you should not take it very, very leniently, right? One more thing that I forgot to mention was that GK does not have a negative marking attached with it. So what you can do is you can find revisers for GK latest 1 to 3 month compodiums, and I'm sure even Prepzone will provide you with material for that GK.
And you should not be extremely worried about GK and SA. That does not count, as I think Dipan had already mentioned.
I think Nishan is asking that if he's going to score 99 plus, then that guarantee Jamshedpur campus. So I don't think.
I would say not. I had a friend who had 99.9 something percentile and still could not crack XLRI Jamshedpur. So it does not guarantee. What really guarantees is exceptionally well interview performance, and if GD happens in that as well.
But at the same time, Nishan, it increases your chance in getting into the campus, right? So although no percentile would guarantee you, but you will have an edge over others for sure.
And that's why I had said, even if you get a lower percentile, that does not matter. You can still crack XLRI. You can get into XLRI with lower percentiles. You have to perform well in the interviews.
Dipan, we can move to practice. So this is the real time practice these guys can do now. All right. So how I would like the session ideally to go is okay. We have one more question. I think this will be the last question that we would be taking. Okay, you have two questions. What should be the attempt strategy in that paper? Which section we should start first? VRC DM quant. Okay. Should we try to attempt maximum questions or should we focus on more accuracy? All right. To answer the first part of the question, I think no singular strategy can work for everyone, right? There'll be 1 to 1.5 lakh odd people giving the paper this year. There'll not be a single strategy that works for every single individual. What you have to do is that you have to see what is your comfort level, right? What you can do is usually what I used to tend to do is I used to tackle quant first because it was a very concentration heavy section for me, right? And as the time passes by during the exam, our concentration levels tend to decrease. So ideally, again, this is something that worked for me, may or may not work for you. Disclaimer. Uh, try to experiment a little with mocks, see how it is going. And again, if you're done with VRC and then you move to DM, does not mean you cannot jump back to VRC, right? So that is also one technique that a lot of individuals practices. They tend to skim through the entire paper once and then mark questions and tend to revisit them. And the second one, again, personally, my strategy was to maximize my attempts because again, if you see the raw score, uh, you'll have an advantage, right? And to be very honest with you, that is not a paper where you will feel that you do not have adequate amount of time. So you'll have enough time to invest on each individual questions if you give it a try. So uh, man, again, it's a trade-off. It should not be a trade-off ideally, because time is not a very big constraint for you. So accuracy and attempts both should be maximized ideally.
Yeah, and adding on, the way you should attempt the paper or your approach should be that first of all you understand what is your weakness and strengths and how do you stand out in this exam. So let's say if you're doing really well in VARC, so you take your time with VARC first maybe, or you how do you feel comfortable with the different sections of the exams, and also you have to make sure that you're able to take the cutoff, you are able to reach the cutoffs of each section, and then you can attempt extra questions going on. So you have to be careful about accuracy and attempts such that there is a balance between the number of attempts and the accuracy, as well as how are you approaching the sections of the exam given your comfort level with different sections. Let's say Dipan was very comfortable with quant, so he was attempting it first, and maybe for me it's VARC. I attempted immediately. I start attempting it, and if I get bored, I go move on to DM or quant to just refresh my mind. So that's how I work. So your pattern is something you will discover through a lot of mock exams and a lot of practice. That's the only way through.
All right, that was the last question. Moving on to DM. So before we jump on to the section directly, uh, why do you think that DM is a part of that? The first question, right? Because it is something that is not seen. So I'll answer that. There are two main reasons I feel. First is that it tests the business acumen and real life situational awareness of an individual, right? And secondly, XLRI is a campus which focuses very, very much on ethical approach to problems. So these are the two things that the section majorly checks in an individual. Um, and because it's a new section, nobody is at an advantage or disadvantage per se. Let's say quant for some people, it might be a strong point. For some people, VRC might be a strong point. But DM is a section where I feel more or less people are on a level playing field, right? So, to practice DM, your Bible should be last previous year 10, 12 papers because that tells you the pattern in which the exam setter is setting up the questions, right? Decision making in general is a very, very subjective thing by nature. But because of the nature of our exam, it forces us to be objective. It forces us to select one particular question, option rather, right? So, how you should be able to do is attempt the previous year papers on your own, then check for answers, and if there is any discrepancy, see how you deviated from the intended thought process, right? So we'll follow something similar of a practice right now. I'll show you one questions. We have two sets of three questions each, so 6 questions in total. I want you to answer it first. If one of you can volunteer for each question and tell us that how you reached that particular answer, it would be very, very helpful for all of us. If not, then I'll tell you how I thought about that question and how I jumped onto the answer for it. Right? If everyone's clear, can they give me a thumbs up or something of an indication that we are good to go? Perfect. All right. Here's the first question for you. I'll give you 60 odd seconds to read, or rather, because it's the first question, 2 minutes approximately, and then we can jump on to the discussion. Right. You can start answering in the chat box if you have reached your answer. Right. I see a couple of twos, a couple of threes, one. Okay. One. Okay. Okay. If one of you can raise hands, I can ask them to unmute and explain me their thought process how it went. Yep, go ahead. Chinmay.
Okay, so what I thought was here we have the Jagdeep Singh's bakery is in Jayanagar first, and Jayanagar has four bakeries under which Lee Croissant Bakery is having 47% market share, which is greater than Jagdeep's Bakery. Okay, so it is one competitor of Jagdeep's Bakery in Jayanagar. So considering Lake Rosan Bakery as potential competitor of Jagdeep, if he is trying to open a new bakery in Ramnagar, he'll be checking the competitors. And as the third point suggests, Lake Rosan's Ramnagar branch struggles with a market share of 10%. As that potential competitor is struggling for the market share, he can try to explore in that area with his own bakery. That's what I thought. So it
All right,
best.
Chinmay. To counter you, okay. So, the first statement reads Jayanagar and Ramnagar both have a similar population, land area, ethnic diversity, PCI, right? So,
Yeah.
it is a similar similar in terms of demographics, right?
Right.
And Le Creuson has a 40% market share in Jayanagar. That means that they are in good in terms of, let's say, quality or what products they cater to their target segment, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that company in a similar demographically area is struggling with the market share, what does that show? That because there is no problem with Le Creuson, right? There should not be a problem with Le Creuson because they are doing well in Jayanagar, but they're not being able to do well in Ramnagar, right?
Yeah.
So ideally, what that should mean is that Ramnagar does not prefer the industry in general or the type of things that Le Creuson sells, right?
They are not for that test. I mean, Ramnagar people are not ready for that test.
Exactly, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So, would it be a wise decision when you see a similar competitor of yours struggling in an area where they're not? Ideally, it should not be, right?
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Right. So, one thing you can also do in DM is eliminate options. Try eliminating options. You'll be mostly left with one, two, at max three options, and then see which one is the best fit amongst those three options, right? All
Yeah.
right. There are a lot of people going for Nishan. Yes, please.
Hi, sir. So,
Mhm.
so basically, like as you mentioned, that elimination of the options. So basically, I went by that methodology and I came up with options two and three. I was very confused between options two and three, because roughly both are kind of based upon the very fact that the market share, how much is the market share and represents. So in those kind of situations, because mostly say people are stuck between two very close options. So in those cases, what to do?
See, again, to be very honest with you, you'll not have 100% accuracy in DM. Okay. What you need to do is you need to give your best. There'll be times when you have to choose between two options. But again, if you're able to narrow down to two options in almost all the questions, your net marks would be greater than what the average Janta will score. Right. And that is what we want. We do not have to target 100% score. Does that make sense, Nishan?
Yes, sir,
Wha-
almost
wha-
got
wha-
it. One more thing. I just wanted to know, like, how your mind worked in favor of option two, in a bit more details, if that's possible.
All right, I did not tell the correct answer yet. Okay, we'll discuss all the options one by one. I'll tell you how I went. So the first option, before starting his own bakery, Jagdeep was supplying bread to bakers in Ramnagar. Okay, so there are two main issues with this option. Firstly, is that we do not know when he started the bakery. So this can be somewhere around 20 years, 30 years down the line, and the market landscape would have changed in the current date. And second, his target audience would be entirely different when we compare him supplying breads to bakeries vis-a-vis him supplying finished croissant, whatever the SKUs are, to a customer. So again, this option does not make sense in any of its entirety. We'll discuss option two and three later. Option fourth, right? Jagdeep has managed to acquire a big space in Ramnagar at a nominal rent. Okay, this is also a decent option. We can consider, we cannot eliminate it right at the starting, right? Option fifth, Ramnagar is served by four bakeries, with the two largest bakeries having market share 55 and 25% respectively. Again, so if we see the competitive landscape of Ramnagar, we already have two big players. And it is usually not a wise decision to enter a market where one or two players control the market in such high numbers, right? Let's say now option two, three, four, right? So I explained option three. Option four does not. Yes, 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 right. Correct. That is how we eliminate option four, right? It does not talk about market. So, of course, acquiring big space is essential at a nominal rate, but it does not tell if my products would sell over there or not, right? Let's see option two. What it says is 3% of the current revenue comes from Ramnagar. Instead of him having a store in Jayanagar, which is 15 kilometers far from Ramnagar, people are traveling to his store 3% of the revenue is coming from people of Ramnagar. So that shows that people are interested in his product who belong to Ramnagar, right? If they are if they're willing to travel 15 kilometers one way, in spite of, let's say, Ramnagar having another bakeries also. So that shows that there is a interest in people of Ramnagar for Jagdish Bakery, right? Does this make sense to everyone? And perfect. Does anybody want to counter this? It's okay. You can challenge my thoughts and your own thoughts. Right? That is how you and me grow as individuals. Okay, perfect. If there are no objections to this, we'll move on to the next question. Again, similar pattern. 1 minute, 1.5 minutes to read, and then uh, shoot your answers on the chat box.
Hi, sir. Just wanted to ask, so
Yeah.
which one was the right answer, two or three?
Option two. Option two.
Okay, okay, got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Because it gives a higher guarantee that my store would function well in Ramnagar, right?
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Again, there is a level of subjectivity when it comes to decision making, but you have to choose the better fit. I'm not saying that option three altogether was wrong, but two was better when compared to option three. Perfect. Perfect. Relatively आसान question था ये. Okay, is there anyone who is not comfortable with English? Sorry, Hindi over here. Is everyone comfortable with Hindi now? समझ में थोड़ा ज्यादा आता है. I feel like if we translate the question to our own more comfortable language. Option 333. Sujay says 5. All right. All right. Majority in 3. Almost all. We understand. Perfect. ठीक है. यार देखो, बहुत बहुत इजी चीज एंड इस क्वेश्चन का एक पर्पस है. ओके, व्हाई आई पुल्ड अप हियर इज ऑप्शंस इन केस ऑफ ऑर्डरिंग, राइट? देयर विल बी अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस यू विल सी जहां पे आपको सीक्वेंस करनी हो चीजें, एंड दैट इज वेयर ऑप्शंस प्ले एज अ फ्रेंड टू यू, a friendly role to you. तो बहुत इजीली हम एलिमिनेट कर सकते हैं विद द यूज ऑफ ऑप्शंस। तो इधर मैं फिफ्थ स्टेटमेंट पढ़ रहा हूँ, आई एम रीडिंग द फिफ्थ स्टेटमेंट. So it says that Lake Croissant's Ramnagar branch struggles with a market share of 10%. Okay. So what we are trying to explore is we are looking for a 100% eggless branch. And it was mentioned in the question that croissant does not offer eggless varieties, right? So does it make sense to compare Les Croissants and what Jagdeep wishes to open? It does not make any sense, right? Because their the product that they are trying to sell does not overlap in any way. So when we are doing market research, we would try to see similar competitors to us. तो आपके दो ऑप्शंस ऐसे एलिमिनेट हो गए डायरेक्टली, which include option 5 in their statement 5 in their options, right? Coming to the first one, eggless products account for 30% of ले baguette sale. अब now ये current sale की बात हो रही है. That is something that you have to infer out of the statement. Now my current branch is in Jayanagar. How does it matter what we sell over here? Correct. Hmm. Rather, sorry, my bad. It should matter. It should matter because demographics are same. The next statement, at least 20% of all bakery sales in Ramnagar is from eggless product. So what this statement shows is that there is a demand for eggless products, right? So this also should be into consideration when deciding. Um, Third statement, the eggless varieties of lait baguette contain minute traces of egg. Okay. So how does my option three, statement three, help in determining if the product is feasible or not, right? So even statement 3 should not be much looked upon. Statement 4. Lebaguts currently makes 3% of its revenue from Ramnagar customer and all of it comes from eggless products. Okay. So option 4 also shows that there is a demand for eggless products in Ramnagar. So what all statements am I left with? Statement 1, 2 and 4. देखो एक ही ऑप्शन है जहां पे 2, 4, 1 है, राइट? So that is how I used to eliminate. Now, if there were two options with the same statements in different sequence, then I would again revisit the question and see which is the highest factored statement amongst all of these, right? So if I see statement 2, it directly talks about the demand in Ramnagar. So it ideally should have the highest weightage. Does this make sense? Any objections, queries in this particular uh, set? Perfect. A lot of thumbs up. If there's nothing, I'll move on to the next question. Right? Anybody who wants to explain क्या thought process था उनका? 3, 4. कोई एक unmute करके if one of you want to give it a shot, वरना I will. All right. Since थोड़ा सा we are running short on time, I'll just take this question up. Okay. Um, is there anyone who did not get the question? What the question is trying to convey? No one. Okay. So, what the bakery is trying to do is they are making products that are ready to bake. हमारे जैसे we get ready to eat food, right? आप उसको microwave में डालो and it's done, right? But something similar, but they would require an oven to bake the product, right? Option 444. Absolutely correct. Option 4 ही होना चाहिए. See, now since they are launching a new product which will require an oven for the from the customer end. So सबसे पहले requirement क्या होनी चाहिए? That the customer has an oven. अगर कस्टमर्स के पास अवन ही नहीं है तो हम बेच के करेंगे क्या वो सामान, राइट? दे कांट यूटिलाइज दैट प्रोडक्ट. सो माय ऑप्शन 2 and 3 टॉक अबाउट द अवन सिनेरियो इन द सिटी, राइट? एंड उसमें भी ऑप्शन 2 टॉक्स अबाउट current scenario and option 3 talks about the forecast. So these two options should be the highest priority statements, right? Statement 2 and statement 3. अब देखो options में देखो 2 and 3 मेरा ऑप्शन 4 में ही है, राइट? सी अगेन हाउ यू गो अबाउट दीज एंटायर सीक्वेंसिंग जहां पे आपको पांचों सीक्वेंस करने हैं. आइदर यू ट्राई टू फाइंड द बेस्ट स्टेटमेंट्स और द वर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट्स एंड देन चेक वो फर्स्ट हाफ ऑफ द ऑप्शंस में है कि वो लास्ट हाफ ऑफ द ऑप्शंस में, राइट? अगेन इफ यू सी ऑप्शन 5 में भी 2 और 3 है आगे. विल टॉक अबाउट दैट कि इसको कैसे हटाएं, इसको कैसे एलिमिनेट करें. ऑप्शन 3 भी आया था एक पे. ओके, तो ऑप्शन 3 का फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट देखो. ऑप्शन 3 का फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट क्या बोलता है? यूएस बेकरी ऑल्सो सेल्स रेडी टू बेक प्रोडक्ट्स. हमें क्या फर्क पड़ता है यूएस में हायर प्रॉफिट्स आ रहे हैं कि नहीं आ रहे, रादर हायर रेवेन्यूज आ रहे हैं कि नहीं आ रहे? when in the same question we are given about Indian landscape, right? So the Indian landscape should hold a higher importance to me vis-a-vis the US landscape. So clearly option 5 तो पहले ही आएगा ऑप्शन 1 के, स्टेटमेंट 5 पहले ही आएगा स्टेटमेंट 1 के. तो मेरा ऑप्शन 3 तो वैसे एलिमिनेट हो जाता है, राइट? सिमिलर लॉजिक विथ ऑप्शन 5 आल्सो. मेरा स्टेटमेंट 5 पहले आना चाहिए स्टेटमेंट 1 के, बिकॉज इट टॉक्स अबाउट द इंडियन landscape of the products that we are trying to sell. And the last statement, that is statement कौन सा 4, that is 50% of regular customers are full-time working couples. Now we haven't been given with a relation that do full-time working couples prefer our product or do they not prefer our product, तो हमें वो पता ही नहीं है. So statement 4 becomes the most irrelevant out of all the 5 statements that are given to us. So that is how I reached to option 5 being the correct answer. Any doubts, objections, queries?
Sir, option 4 जो है 50% of Jagdeep's regular customers are full-time working couples, ये ज्यादा irrelevant है ना?
हाँ, तो ऑप्शन 4 में देखो स्टेटमेंट कौन सा लास्ट में है?
हाँ,
Statement
option
4.
4 ना, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, option
हाँ,
4. Okay, right.
ऑप्शन
I
4
thought
is the
option 5 you
right
are saying
answer.
as the answer.
करेक्ट, बिकॉज कोई रिलेशन ही नहीं है हमारे पास फुल टाइम वर्किंग कपल्स एंड आवर प्रोडक्ट दैट वी आर ट्राइंग टू सेल. ओके, विल सॉल्व वन मोर सेट. थोड़ा जल्दी करेंगे ये, ठीक है? तो वी हैव 6 odd minutes left, तो 2 minutes per question at max.
Okay, I'll take the prep and I'll try to do it as fast as we can.
थोड़ा 5-10 मिनट एक्सटेंड हुआ तो आई डोंट थिंक सो वी हैव एन इशू, राइट? Pratiksha, you will be taking over the next set.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let me solve one question and then I will have to drop it.
Okay, okay, no issues.
As the background noise is different from I am traveling.
Sure.
Okay. So I'll read out the question. Himaja was among the top 10 students of our business management batch. She got placed in a reputed strategy consulting firm. During campus placement, she was delighted to work under Nirmal, her superior, who was known for grooming many stars in the organization. Nevertheless, he was also regarded as a hard task. Though she was fresh recruit, she longed to be in client facing. The question is, during an informal office gathering, Himaja mustered up the courage to ask Nirmal for a client facing. Which of the following reasons, if true, will best justify Nirmal saying no to him? Let's take 1 to 2 minutes and answer whatever you feel is the right answer. Let's just answer whichever. Okay, we are getting answers for the option 4, which is clients do not appreciate strategic discussions with fresh recruits. And this is the right answer. And why it is so? Because these kind of questions that right now we have the set, these questions require very general common logic. And you see all the other options where they're mentioning either communication skills, presentation skills, or the option where Himaja leaves early and the client meetings go late into the night. These are areas where we can work upon. These are nothing that that cannot be solved. These are problems that can be easily solved. So you cannot say that to a person and say that no, you cannot work. And the last option where clients do not take young women seriously, that's an absurd solution and that's disrespectful towards them. So you cannot just present it. So the only option which is right is clients do not appreciate strategic discussions with fresh recruits, which gives you the point, yeah, they might not have the experience of industry and how the things work in the industry. So how could they understand what clients want and what is their need? So that way, fourth option is correct. Let's move on to the next question. Okay, due to her constant pleading, Nirmal assigned Himaja a client-facing role in this project. Nirmal instructed her that he would do all the talking during meetings and she would diligently listen and take notes. However, in the first meeting, Himaja made a comment which contradicted Nirmal. In the next, she interrupted the client while he was making a point. This offended the client, resulting in Nirmal apologizing to the client to save the project. Which one is the most appropriate action that Nirmal should take against Himaja's group? Let's take 2 minutes and answer this one. Okay, a lot of people are saying that first option is the right answer. Somebody said two. Let's look at the first option. Have a chat with Himaja later in the explain the delicate situations we had put in during the meeting and request the motivation. Now the thing is, if you read the question, the whatever is given earlier to the specific question, it's given that Nirmal instructed her that he would do all the talking during the meeting and she would diligently listen and take notes. So she had already been instructed that she has to only listen and not comment. And she has gone against those instructions. So him having a chat and telling things that, okay, you can do this better. In a professional setting, this is not acceptable. If you have been told something is to be followed, you should follow it no matter what. So, first option is reject it because she was already told what was to be done. Now she can, Nirmal cannot go on and discuss things because Nirmal has a good reputation of being hard with people and he does not have the time with, I mean, people in the corporate places do not have time with to keep explaining things to you. So if he has already explained it, it doesn't make that much sense. In the second option, caution Himaja that she would lose client-facing role if she does not appreciate the rationale behind his instructions. She had contradicted Nirmal when Nirmal is clearly a very experienced professional and she is a fresh recruit. And she was not being put in this role because she was a fresh recruit. So here this makes sense because you tell her that if you keep continuing this kind of behavior, you will not be able to continue this client-facing role. So this gives her a warning that better improve your behavior and do as I say. So this is a professional approach. And this is a better option than the option number 1. So while if second option was not available, option 1 would have been the answer. Because the second option is available, that will be the answer. And the other 3 options are really like, why are even they there? So asking Himaja's project teammates to have a chat on her with her to how to behave, I mean, that's irrelevant. It's a matter between these 2 people and not project teammates. Then recommend a 5-day listening skill workshop. Again, how do you ensure that a listening skill workshop will help you? Then wait for half-yearly review, that performance review, and submit a strong report against very small incidents. You cannot bring a very strong report against Himaja based on just one single incident. Again, irrelevant. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Another month passed and Himaja was working under Shreya in a different team. Shreya was impressed by Himaja's enthusiasm and sincerity. She asked Himaja to accompany her to a meeting with a new client. During the meeting, Himaja made a statement that offended the client. Shreya tried to diffuse the situation by asking Himaja to apologize. Though Himaja apologized, she defended her statement. This infuriated the client further, who categorically told that the statement of Himaja was against the organization's core values. He specifically told Shreya that unless concrete steps were taken against Himaja, he would not get into any business with the firm, which is the most appropriate action against Shreya that should be taken in interest of all the parties. Let's take 2 minutes and answer the question. Okay, a lot of people are answering 5 as the answer. Let one of you only explain why 5 is the answer and why not others are the answer. Can any one of you unmute and tell me the answer why? Anyone who has answered 5 as the answer, what is the logic behind your answer?
Hi, ma'am. So basically, a rough framework that I followed was, see, basically in the first 4 options, more or less, I'm getting the sense that uh, either it's very extreme or it's not exactly precisely addressing the problem at hand. So again, I thought that 5 would be perhaps the best choice in this scenario. So I wasn't sure with the first 4 options, but I was more or less a bit more confident than the first 4 options in the 5th option.
Okay, you have the right logic. Pujya, you said 2, but look at this. Should advise Himaja to look for the route outside of the consulting industry. Now, this is one of the only incident in front of Shreya that has happened, that she has spoken disrespectfully and whatever she has. How can you, basically just one incident, tell someone to change their profession? So that's again extreme as Nishan. And the very first option where it says that castigate Himaja for using strong words and then later on share how much Shreya loved Himaja's coming. That's really not how you work in the corporate world. Himaja did disrespect the client, and it's taking the business source out of the consulting firm. So you cannot support Himaja in any way. Then third option is to defend Himaja, knowing fully that most probably Shreya will lose the client. Well, if Shreya will lose the client, then definitely Himaja has done something wrong. How can you defend her or how can you support her? You're also aware that she has not worked in the way that she was expected to. Then fourth option is to assure the client that Himaja will be transferred, but send Himaja for a 2-week vacation to rejuvenate instead. Again, it's a based on company resources. Himaja is one of the company resources. The company is paying her to work. How can you send her on a vacation? So that is not logically correct. So these kind of questions in XAT, you have to use your common sense and come up with logic that would you like to do this kind of a thing in a corporate environment? If your mind says no, then you do not go with that option. And if there are two options which are very close to each other, try to weigh them. Which one is better in terms of interest of all the different parties involved? And also keep in mind, in any of these decision-making questions, how do you stay ethically correct? Like one of the options was that the consulting firms do not listen, or the clients do not listen to women. How do you ethically justify this? So again, that option is straight away rejected. So keep this in mind. And if you have any questions, then do put them in the chat box or ask here. I will have to take a leave as I have a bus to catch, but happy to connect on LinkedIn or any other social media platform. All the very best. Bye.
Thank you so much, Pratiksha. All right. Any questions? Anything that you want to ask anyone?
Hello.
There.
Yeah, so I just had one argument against point number 5. So
Okay.
the point says for this question, should move Himaja to a non-client facing role in the current project. But the statement mentions that the client does not like wants a concrete shape taken against Himaja. So Himaja will still be working in the current project with the same.
Uh, See again, it is mentioned that explore client-facing roles, right? It see again, how corporates in general work is that the client usually is only aware of the people that are directly in the client-facing role, right? What happens in the back end is the organization's call, and also that work is vetted through various people. It is routed for approval to various people, right? So the client really is not aware or does not care about what happens unless and until the work is done. Does that make sense, Sujay?
Yeah, it does. I think it
Right.
does.
And usually the client facing roles are considered to be a better one. So if Himaja is being removed from that particular role, it is kind of a demotion for Himaja, right? So again, a step has been taken over there. I have a question. Will we have this kind of session again for those that is up? I think someone from the Prepzone team can answer that better. Hmm.
Yeah, we may have 1 or 2 more sessions,
Thank you, Shivam.
but we need more participation. Okay.
All right, then, Shivam, can you take over from here?
Sorry. So these are some of the results of last year batches. So like we had 96% of conversion. So it means that we had converted at least one calls. So if you want to start with GDPI prep, so you can join, and we'll do a lot of practice on DM and Snap other stuff. So you can join for that. So now after this, we have session for only for enrolled students, not for everyone. So thanks Dipan. I think Pratiksha has already left. So thanks Dipan for your time, and we may invite you later in the month.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would be happy to see some of these people again, of course.
Okay. Bye bye. So guys, if you are enrolled, so please join the next session. So that is already on.
All right, then. Thank you,
Bye bye.
everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Shubham, I'll be dropping off from this call. All right.
Sure.
Very good.